According to some people, all the elf factions should have access to all the common lores. Currently, only the High Elves do, and Lore of Death is a fairly unusual choice for them, but here, Rider Rohan's going to take Lore of Death Archmage into the Skaven, so let's take a look at what else he's got. Some Rangers in the front line, Archers to back them up, Silver Helms, and White Lion Chariots. Lion Chariots being exceptional chariots in general, but especially very good here with the missile resistance. The fact they cost fear, 30% missile resistance, makes them pretty resilient against things like Giselles or Rattling Gunners. The fact that they also have martial prowess means 40 melee defense for high tier AP chariot is quite strong. The rest of the army, we've got just one Reaver in the back. Yeah, it looks like the item is going to be popped here. It's the Armor of the Stars to make the Archmage unspottable. Avalanche Mortars currently wrecking the Rangers there in the center. We've got them, plus it could Zap Zap, the Plague Claw Catapult, Skaven Slave Spears, some Rat Ogres as well, including the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep. Deathmaster Snitch leading the way. And yeah, the Plague Priest on the Furnace. So, Lore of Death. I'd imagine the idea here is going to be to Spirit Leech Artillery and also Purple Sun. It gets Zap Zap does have an ability recharge timer on contact, so if it hits your characters or any unit that has an ability, it will give them an ability recharge, which is quite strong if it can make contact. It's pretty expensive. It's, 1,200 point artillery piece, so losing it out to some low-tier archer file or something would be pretty painful, but right now, man, those archers just getting absolutely deleted by the Plague Claw, by the Avalanche, but Lion Chariots have already busted through the front line, and this is the thing about defending your front line with only Skaven chaff, right? And by the way, Skaven love to destroy my frame rate because that little scurry away magic effect for whatever reason, or ability effect, does just destroy frame rates. But anyway, back to my point about defending your front line with just Skaven Slaves. Even with the Furnace, like summoning up Clan Rats, it's hard to pull up enough Clan Rats quickly enough to actually keep these high shock units out of your lines. So the Lion Chariots, Silver Helms bust through. They're going to get into the artillery. Even the Rat Ogres coming through can only do so much, especially when they're getting recharged by Illyrian Reavers. So a great pocket here for Rider Rohan, but all that stuff is also getting drained by this Plague Priest because it's all in a big blob right there. Anyway, the Rangers are cleaning up some summoned Clan Rats. I don't really like any infantry for the High Elves, to be honest. Rangers are sort of the least offensive, though, because they're one of the cheapest, and the anti-infantry is pretty solid here. Archers definitely making their presence felt, though, at a distance, shooting into those Rat Ogres, doing some nice DPS. Lion Chariots, Aspect of Dread Knight on them, great choice to give a little bit of terror, since this build lacks terror, and High Elves, generally, it's hard to get access to it cheaply. This spell can give you it, and even self-casting it on the Archmage herself, given the fact she's got 62 charge on 420 weapon strength, she can tear out characters, especially, perhaps. But the thing is, Deathmaster Snitch is still alive, and he is a very, very strong character, especially in the late game. So it would be nice to see maybe a few Spirit Leeches on him throughout the course of this battle, if there is the Winds of Magic available for it. You probably don't need too many more, like Purple Suns or anything else. And there was a Purple Sun, I think, used earlier that I might have missed. But anyway, we'll see. Arcane Conduit, Armor of Stars has been popped again. You can see the Lion Chariots getting out here, trying to get after those Avalanche Mortars who have now regrouped. Protect what's left of the Archers here. The Cavalry also coming in to collapse on the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep, charging them from multiple angles. Pretty decent. A few of them do get caught up on the Zap Zap, though. This one model that does remain. That'll be just fine, though. And the Pit Fighter's out of control. Of course, they've got that Enrage mechanic of Norska, the same one that the Berserkers have, so they will be out of control for some time, but they come back relatively quickly. Another Aspect of Dread Knight here on the Lion Chariots. Eshin Triads totally had neglected them earlier. They're going to do quite a bit of damage to the Lion Chariots, along with the Rat Ogres. Doom and Darkness, though. And the Aspect of Dread Knight did drop pretty quickly, unfortunately. Didn't get too much value out of it. But anyway, Archers still firing in, trying to just take out whatever they can. Really, they should be focused firing at this point, probably on the Plague Priest. High Elven Archers have good enough AP, only 100 armor, sorry, 90 on the Plague Priest. I say only, that is quite a bit, but another Purple Sun there. Again, I'm not 100% sure about that. I think probably save your Winds of Magic for Spirit Leeches on Deathmaster at this point. Oh, I forgot. He doesn't even have Spirit Leech. Okay, well, there we go. I've mentioned the fact that he should be Spirit Leeching like 4 or 5 times. He doesn't even have it. That's right. Aspect of Dread Knight, Doom and Darkness, and Purple Sun. So perhaps that will come back to haunt him, but Elves, you have a lot of great options. The Archmage on the Eagle in general with the Armor of Stars is a good pick in this matchup, and really a number of Lords of Magic there's an argument to be made. Fire, of course, is very strong, generally pretty meta. You have some direct synergy with High Elves if you choose to take like an Arcane Phoenix or something else that has innate fire damage. Fireball is very good for taking out Skaven artillery, and Burning Head speaks for itself here, right? Cascading Fire Cloak can also be pretty good for juicing up the chariots, giving them extra melee defense and armor-piercing damage. So that's a good option. Metal is also a really good option. Final Transmutation, if the weapons teams and artillery's in a blob especially, you can destroy them all at once with a big Final Transmutation. Searing Doom, pretty solid. Plague of Rust is applicable against certain targets. Yeah, even Gehenna's Golden Hounds is pretty decent in this matchup as a cheap Vortex. Other Lords of Magic. I mean, unfortunately, you don't have access to Manticore summons. I would say that one is out, but generally, I would say those are the main two I would go with. I mean, Lore of Life is obvious if you want to take, like, Alariel. She doesn't have Armor of Stars, though. And at this point, the lack of Spirit Leech is definitely showing, and I'm sure everyone's wishing that he had brought it, just because, yeah, a couple of Spirit Leeches on Deathmaster, and he would go down relatively quickly. Fireball also happens to be very good against these kind of Skaven assassin type characters. Any of the Clan Eshin characters who rely on their physical resistance, don't have the greatest armor. I mean, 50 melee defense is pretty good, but only 30 armor is obviously going to be very susceptible to any kind of magic damage, so definitely is worth it to have. Like, Doom and Darkness is okay. I probably would have traded it out here, like, and just use Aspect of Dread Knight for the Terror, and Spirit Leech, and then maybe have Purple Sun for insurance, and because it's fun to have Vortexes. Deathmaster's going to pop his little twirly blades, takes a charge. The problem is that he can kill the Archmage very, very quickly if he gets a number of successive hits, and the scaling damage means it only takes a couple of hits for his power to increase against a given target. And like these Lion Chariots are here, they can somewhat disrupt his mass, but the Plague Priest also being here to kind of block the Lion Chariots is a big problem. The archers that do remain are trying their best to shoot at the Plague Priest, take down that furnace. Let's see, we'll fast forward a little bit as the Lion Chariots charge in and out. Plague Furnace doing its best to just chase him down. Same with Master. One more summon to Clan Rat's going to be pretty important, but let's see how they do. Right over Rohan doing his best to try and finish the Plague Priest individually away from the Deathmaster, which is definitely the right call. Little armor-piercing charge from the Lions will do a few little chunks of damage right there. Yeah, you can see they get hit as it is running. But while that's happening, unfortunately, the Clan Rats are able to come in here and just completely wipe those two archers along with the Deathmaster. So, Plague Priest went down, but let's see how they can do. Deathmaster won't take too much for him to want to rout off either. I mean, again, 62 charge is definitely enough on the charge to make solid contact with him. Armor of Stars gets popped here. Unfortunately, I mean, maybe you have a Doom and Darkness that'll be able to help break his leadership. Thankfully, the Clan Rat summon just went down. It looks like Aspect of Dread Knight popped on the Lion Chariots. It does give them magic damage. Maybe you should have actually used the Aspect of Dread Knight on the Archmage, since she has, again, the 60 charge, 46 melee attack on 420 weapon strength. It would maybe be more beneficial for her to have the magic damage on the charge against the Deathmaster. So again, just because Rider Rohan's a patron of mine, some small, very minor coaching tips here. Obviously, it's a very, very close battle, and he's done pretty well on a number of fronts, but he's in a situation here. The Deathmaster's still alive, and it's looking good, but at the same time, maybe not so good. Slippery's been popped, so he's got additional melee defense up to 74. Basically negates more than just the charge bonus of the Eagle here. One Chariot model has gone down. Deathmaster gets knocked over. They get knocked over again by the Chariot, which is good, but one more hit on that Chariot, and it should go down. with the scaling damage. Yep, so he finishes off that chariot, and unfortunately, it looks like he had broken the Archmage as well, so Redoran takes home a very narrow defeat. And a few different things, obviously, we talked about could have changed the outcome. It is a very, very close battle, but kudos to him for sending in such a defeat. It's definitely a very fun one. He shows the Lion Chariots to be very strong. I mean, they both pay for themselves here. The cavalry as well is pretty decent, kind of in support of them. That just big shock charge straight into the front of Skaven, able to break them in a way that I don't think they were expecting. A lot of people don't expect like a shock charge rush from High Elves, but you can absolutely do that, and it does work pretty well. The archers also, those that didn't get rained by mortars, did pretty well. Rangers, one of them does pretty well, does actually pay for themselves, which is nice to see. Kind of shows, again, though, why I'm not really a fan of bringing infantry here. Like, sometimes you kind of have to, unless you want to go all cavalry, which is really risky, or even maybe option in some more skirmishers there. And again, like, you'd have to perhaps find some extra gold to make them Lothran Sea Guard or something else. Hard to say. But it is nice to have the infantry support on that shock charge rush to be able to clean up units when they're broken. Archmage does a pretty decent job as well. Love the Armor of Stars synergy, but just again, obviously Spirit Leech would have been the difference in this, I think. Which is, it is boring, yes, but it is something that you probably should be taking anyway. On the Skaven side, value is pretty good. In fact, one of the Skaven Slave Spears pay for themselves, not too bad. The Plague Priest meets an early demise, but still pays for himself. Deathmaster Snitch speaks for himself. The 2 artillery pieces are able to be shut down pretty efficiently, so again, it's not even necessarily that you need the Spirit Leech for the artillery with this build, because they were able to come in and just, you know, break the front line and shut it down that way. But more so for the characters, like, Deathmaster is pretty strong. You won't see him all the time, but he's pretty frequent. Even more so than him, though. Like, Skaven Assassins are in almost every single Skaven build, and they probably should be in almost every in every Skaven build where you have an empty hero slot. Sometimes you'll see Packmasters or Chieftains randomly. Again, though, I mean, the Chieftain, even on the Bonebreaker, doesn't have a ton of HP. Like, this is definitely enough that Spirit Leech will be able to get some good value against him. The Packmaster, less so because of the regeneration, but the leadership here is not amazing. You can kind of break this guy through other means. Obviously, Eshin Sorcerer follows the same rules as the Assassin, right? An ideal target for Spirit Leeching. The Warlock Engineer, you don't see him as often as you used to. You might still occasionally, though, and again, low HP character, only on foot. Great target for Spirit Leeching. Deathmaster, Lord Skrull, also a great target for Spirit Leeching. Even the Furnace, I mean, 4,400 HP, yeah, it's not super high. It is enough that in a pinch, that Spirit Leech can be the extra little chunk of damage you need to rout it off. So just some things to consider. In terms of Winds of Magic, or Lores of Magic, rather, for High Elves, I mean, I kind of said my piece. I guess Light could fulfill somewhat of a similar role if you were to just use Shem's Burning Gaze. And then maybe you also get Banishment for your AoE damage if you want to have some fun with Vortexes. But that's kind of getting outside of the scope of this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.